So what we're going to do is we are going to cover different RPAs today. The actual home that we were looking at was a home in Santa Clarita, and I will bring up. There you go. Do you guys see the, that's the brochure that was used. And so this is a home that I was having your clients make an offer on. So I'm going to look at the different things that were sent, and by no means is this a criticism of like, oh, that should have been done, this should have been done, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that at all. We're going to look at all the different points on what makes it effective. First of all, we are going to, let's see. Brenda stepped away, so I'm going to do Brenda's afterwards. Let's look at Eric's first. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share Eric's email to me. And again, I understand that you guys emailed me, and knowing that this was a mock, some of the wording and everything wouldn't be exactly what you would send to everybody else. There we go. There, you guys should be seeing Eric's email. So Eric started this off and he wrote on it, good evening, Rob. My buyers came across this beautiful property. He put the address in there right when it came on the market, and they instantly loved it. I did a brief showing on the property yesterday, and after a little discussion with my buyers, they decided they would like to make an offer on the property. There are a few documents that I'm including along with the RPA. In addition to the RPA, I'm also including the RPA, and he put in the dollar amount, proof of funds, recent bank statements, pre-approval letter, how much it's up to, and the credit report, 800. Ooh, good clients, Eric. A few things I would like to note. This is not contingent on the sale of their current home. Escrow schedule is flexible. Flexible move-in date, time of possession up to 1 month after close of escrow. Counter offer is always welcome. I'm sure that many offers on this property. I'm always open to discussion on how to improve our chances on getting our offer accepted, because I believe that communication is vital to a smooth and successful real estate transaction. I regularly check my messages as well as email in order to guarantee a quick response to any situation that comes up through the whole process. If you have a preferable form of communication, please let me know and I will prioritize that over the others. In the meantime, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns that has been brought up. Thank you for your time and consideration, Eric Chen. Somebody give me their first impressions on that. Very detailed. Yes, I agree, Michael. Something that really stuck out to me. It almost looks like, I don't know if Eric took one of the intro emails that I send out. It follow much is the very same pattern.
Yeah, I based off. I remember redoing it before, and I kind of based it off, but just worded it or also added different things to kind of personalize it. But yeah,
I love it. Let me tell you everything I love about this. He put the address in it. Usually, now again, I know this is the mock transaction. Usually, I put the address in the subject matter, and then I put like offer or something like that. Because as a listing agent in real estate, we get tons of emails all the time. So if it's in the subject line and you immediately know, hey, it's an offer and this is it. Is that something that, is that something that's going to be easy for me to understand, or is this just another spam? So that's the first part of it. Another thing is he gives a little bit of background on it. Another thing I really like is that he makes it easy to list. one thing as a listing agent that's a pain in the ass is that people send you offers and I have to dig for the information. How much is it? What are the terms? Blah, blah, blah. And even the new RPA that simplifies all this, I still have to dig into it. When it's in the email like this, it makes it so much easier. Oh, okay. I know immediately, and it's not even in, it's all bullet points. It makes it so easy for me to follow. This is what's being included in the email. The RPA, the proof of funds, pre-approval, and it gives all the numbers there. Oh, bingo, I can see all the pertinent information is there, all the summary. Now, of course, I'm going to dig a little bit and actually look at the documents and is that what's really there? But, you know, that's one thing that makes it so much easier for listing agents, and they really appreciate that. The few things I like to note is some of the other, this is more of the conditions of what the transaction could be, you know, isn't contingent of the sale of another home. That's pretty, you know, usually that's a consideration in a seller's market that's so strong right now. If the home is priced right, it's not a big consideration because we know it's going to sell. But it's still great to note one way or another. Let's say the home is contingent on the sale of another home. I would put that in there and say, however, the current home is priced very well, and we expect it to move very quickly. You can put something in like that. What you're wanting to do is let the listing agent know this is going to be a solid transaction, and the listing agent wants to get into this transaction with the seller. The escrow dates, you know, flexible, blah, blah, blah. Move-in dates. And I, you know, if I know we're being competitive, let's say the home is priced at $900,000 and we're offering 910 or 920. And I know they may be getting other offers in there. Well, then please let us know if a counter offer is something you want to do. So that way they know, hey, we're willing to still play ball, even if it goes higher. That's, you know, or if there's other terms that need to come into play. And even some of that, like when the time of possession is up to 1 month after close of escrow that Eric put in there, which is good. That may be one of the things that's just in the counter offer. So that can take place as well. I'm sure that there's many other offers on the property. I'm always willing to discuss. That means that, hey, you know, willing to work with you, not just here's the offer. One thing a listing agent hates is I get an email, it has the property address, and then it has just the RPA. Don't know anything else. I'm like, great. So even if we get into escrow, I have to go, I mean, it's not a lot, but all you've given me is just this. I'm going to assume that you're not a great communicator. And in the transaction, I need somebody who's going to communicate with me. So you've already told me something indirectly, but you've already told me something that I don't know if this is the offer we want to consider. So that's one of those. That's the reason why I like that in there. And he puts in there, like, he basically lets everybody know, hey, by the way, no matter how you want to communicate with me, I will be responsive. Listing agent wants to hear that. Okay, they want to hear, oh yeah, if we're in a transaction and something comes up, you'll respond to me. It's going to get handled. The one thing nobody wants on either side is the listing agent or the buying agent. They just disappear. And it's like, oh, what is going on? We got stuff that has to get done. This is a transaction here. And he puts, if you have a preferable form, blah, 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 please let me know. But also I want to know one thing I like Eric really did on this. It's detailed enough, but it's short and sweet. As a listing agent, I'm willing to read through this. I'm like, okay, let me read through this. Let me look at it. It's not overly worded. It's not too much in there. Oh, more is better. More is not better, people. You want it to be effective, and this is effective the way it is. Eric, I got to say, this is a great job. Now, the example I gave that you kind of copied and then you went beyond it on mine. My first offers I sent I didn't have all this information in there. I want everybody to understand that this is a business we're always growing in and you're always improving on. So the offers I did at the beginning of my real estate career is not the same offers I'm doing now. And I also easily accept the fact that, let's say 2 years from now, I may be doing my offers even a little bit differently than now, because I'm trying to learn and I'm always trying to grow. And so that may be, I pick up things along the way that I realize, hey, that's better. This is a better way to do it. I like this approach better, or I've just upped my game in my materials, that sort of thing. So anyways, I really like all that. Any questions on his intro letter? Okay, so I'm gonna.
Hi, Rob.
Hey, Carlos.
Sorry. This might seem like a silly question. So today is like my very first time attending your coach training program.
Yeah.
So I'm not really familiar with the whole RPA term. What exactly is an RPA? Is just your ring offer, or what exactly does that entail?
Residential purchase agreement, and that is the offer. So when you, what happens is that a buyer is going to offer to make a purchase of a home.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, what are all the ins and outs of that purchase? What are all the conditions? So basically, still within the residential purchase agreement are all the details of how the transaction is proposed to go down. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to go down that way, because there may be a counter offer on that from the seller. And that could be anything from the terms to the length to the amount of money. It could be any of those things could be in that counter offer. And then once the counter, and there could be a buyer counter offer to that, and it goes back and forth. I had my second transaction. We had we had the initial offer, seller counter offer, buyer counter offer, seller counter offer, buyer counter offer, and then my seller was okay with that, and then we signed off. So, and all of that documentation had to go into escrow, because all of it together was the entire offer. So, but initially when you send something over is the RPA, the residential purchase agreement.
Now, let's say as a buyer agent, and then your clients see a property that they like, and they like to make an offer. Now, how do you come up with the RPA? Do you have like a standard form that you fill out?
Yes, it's part of the CAR forms. When you first signed up for real estate, and you signed up on car.org, it's in the zip forms. And that's where all the forms are that we do in our transactions.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. And that should have been in there when you were onboarded too.
Onboarded on what?
When you first came to the office.
I don't quite recall, but I'm sure it's there.
Okay. It's probably in the paperwork. Cam probably onboarded you. And so that's when all your logins for NAR and CAR and GLAR, all of that stuff was in there, along with your command, Michael Lewis marketing suite, all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of information there, so I'll probably have to go dig and find it.
Yeah, it was in there. Okay, so residential purchase agreement, just like the listing agreement, here you have, well, I like the way, serious buyer, spouse. Okay, Eric, that's creative. I like that. You have the first disclosure saying that, hey, this is a real estate transaction. That's what that is. Then the fair housing and discrimination advisory. You have this one in here. Serious buyer, spouse. Now, and I like that you put this in here. Sometimes if you know who the sellers are, you know, you have the names or the trust or the entity that it's in, and you put that in there, people appreciate that. The listing agent kind of shows that you've done your homework too. If you don't have it, don't guess, because if it's incorrect, then it's going to have to be corrected. And so then you might want to just leave it blank. But I do like that you put in that extra effort and you put that in there. That shows that initiative. This is just, you know, possible seller of more than one buyer or seller. This means that, hey, you know, you may be representing more than one buyer. You may be representing more than one seller. You may be representing both ends, blah, 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 blah. And all of that information goes in there.
I have a quick question. So for the seller, I was trying to put the full name, but for some reason the text box is not big enough. So how do I fix this issue? Because there's two words that's missing, which is revocable trust, which is the full name of the trust. But for some reason, when it's previewed, it's cut out. So is there a way to fix that?
Usually you should be able to do that. Um, it should shrink the text and auto-populate. If it doesn't, you can, and this is how I've gotten around it a few times, in DocuSign, I'll put out a text box for me to fill in. And so
Okay,
then,
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
yeah. And so then that way, when this comes to you, after you've done the whole RPA and then you send it out for signatures, by the way, I always make sure I'm the first one to sign it. So that way, everything, if they're supposed to be checked off or something filled in, it's done. It's not like, your clients are looking at it going, well, I guess this is filled in, or maybe not sign it because something was blank. I automatically do that. And then, so in here, I would do that same thing. So by the time your clients get it, everything is filled in completely. But yeah, that's how, if that's how I get around it in case something isn't allowed. Yeah.
Also, another question is, I noticed your Keller Williams Larchmont DRE license number is different than mine. Is there a reason for this discrepancy?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's the one I was given. That's a really good question. I'll have
I
to ask.
double checked with the office website, and I think I got mine from that, but I'm not sure where yours is from. So I was trying to confirm with you.
I'll double check with that because I'll have to see if something has shifted since we got our new broker, Rich Pisani.
Okay.
I'll see if that's different. Really observant there. The wire fraud, this is just, hey, don't give out your information. By the way, most of the time, most escrow companies will not email wire instructions or a link or that kind of thing. They will call the people and your clients and give the wire information over the phone, because email is not a secure form of communication, and it can be intercepted. And so it just bypasses that. And every once in a while, you still hear a story of somebody thinking, oh, I got an email, and they're in the middle of a transaction and they click everything and they routed over $30,000 and now it's gone forever because it got wired. Okay, so this is the guts of the RPA. And fortunately, since they've redone it, everything is up front. So at the front of it, you have serious buyer and serious buyer spouse. Again, I like that. You have the address. I get asked this a few times. Where do you find the APN? Usually, sometimes, the MLS, it makes it easy to find, but also if you ever just ask title, you can get it from there. But it should be on the MLS. The APN is there. Usually it's on when it gets listed, the listing agent has to look up the APN and put it in anyway. So bingo, there you go. If you want to double check it, because there have been times that people input it incorrectly. Then you have in here the different representation, the disclosures, all of that. Again, there's the license numbers and all that in there. Then you get into the purchase price, and down here we have $960,000. You have 30 days of acceptance. Expiration just left standard. If this is the way and the contracts work, if it is default in there, it is the lowest level, and if you don't touch it, it goes into gear. If Eric were to put in here, oh, okay, the expiration of the offer is 4 days, and he types it in there, now that supersedes what was defaulted in there. Let's say this was printed out and that 4 is in there and it gets crossed off. And then if, let's say 5 days is put in there or 6 days, and then you have to initial and sign next to it, validating it, that is the highest form, because that is a wet signature and that goes above any of the electronic stuff. So just to let you know, that you do have the defaults in there, but that's how those are overridden. You have the initial deposit, and Eric probably figured out that some of the stuff is auto-calculated. So you have to kind of figure out like, okay, what's the total going to be? What's the EMD, the initial deposit, which is usually 3% of whatever is being offered. And then figuring out the loan amount, how that goes into it. And then the balance of the deposit, which is down here. So you have the initial deposit here, you have the loan amount here, and then you have the balance in between. So this could be the down payment. If the loan calls for, let's say, 10% down payment, then you may put down 3% here, but you're going to have the remaining 7% here down in the balance of the down payment. So that's how that works. And then the difference is going to be the loan. And then, which, like, let's say it was 10%, and then that means you have 3% here, you have 7% here. That means you have 90% of the purchase price would be here. And then that's where that gets filled in. And so then this purchase price is supposed to be that exact price there. And that's it. Most of it auto calculates, but in case you're putting numbers in and you're like, wait, why isn't the final number showing up? That means one of these in between isn't calculated the way it should be. And so that's why you got to fix that. Okay. As before, increased deposit, that's only something that comes in later. You don't see that a lot. Every once in a while you see that. If a gift is coming in later, if you're withdrawing money from a 401k and it won't be there for 2 weeks, any of that kind of stuff. But again, a lot of times you really don't see that. Some of the stuff was pretty self-explanatory as you go through it. Usually it's a primary, the people are going to live in it. But if they're buying it and they have renters, then it's a secondary, it's an investment. A secondary home, vacation home, then it would go into that box there. Any questions on page 1? Oh, and something that Eric might have noticed too, this is the RPA, we're on page 1, but you're like, yeah, but technically in Adobe Acrobat, we're on page 7. That's right, because every disclosure, if you notice, is its own separate document. So this is like the wire fraud one is page 1 of 1. Same thing for possible representation, but then the fair housing is 1 of 2. And there's 2 documents there. So that's the reason why you have to go to page 7 to get to this part here. Okay, page 2. So here we have, if there's a seller credit, and there isn't one in here, usually that's negotiated ahead of time. If I were to get in, which I have, by the way, somebody actually sent me a purchase agreement and they put in a seller credit of, I think it was $10,000, and they thought I wouldn't notice it. And I noticed it, and I'm like, my seller's not giving you credit. And just by doing that, I was like, we are not going with this offer. Yeah, we're not doing that crap. Okay. The default of the verification of, now this is all cash. It's not a cash offer. We know it's a loan, but the verification of the down payment and closing costs is either, usually it's attached, or you check the box 3 days. Right now in this kind of competition, you want as much attached as possible, because you don't want to have, again, you got to look at it from the listing agent side of view. They want to, if it's smooth and easy from their initial getting it, that means they're going to communicate that with the seller. Hey, this person was really organized. Everything was up front, blah, blah, blah. Sounds good. Let's say you had an offer. This one's at 960 and you have another one at 970, but this one had the intro, it had the in there, and you had one at 970 and it's missing this, it's missing that. Oh, they checked the wrong box. So you could tell your sellers, okay, look, I know this offer is $10,000 more, but the agent seems really sketchy. And there would be a chance, if things aren't done correctly or they haven't done their homework, that we would fall out of escrow. I need to, for you to know that. A lot of sellers will then say, okay, no, we want to make sure we close. We don't want to have to come back on the market. We don't have to want to go through this again. Let's go with a lower offer. That could happen. Or come back and let this buyer know, you know what, we got another offer at 970. We like your offer better, except for the number. Is there any way to get it up to 970? But then that other one that initially had the higher offer, because their work was sloppy, they lose the deal. And I'm trying to tell you all this because what you're trying to do as a buyer agent is to make the seller agent and ultimately the sellers happy and wanting to take your offer, because it's up to them whether they take your offer or not. So how can you package it to make it the best way possible? And it's not always about money. There's been many times we've talked about I've had clients accept offers that were not the highest offer, but we felt they were the strongest one or the one that would actually close. I've been on the buying side that we were not the biased offer that we were not the highest offer, but we were the most solid, where they knew we were going to follow through. And that we've had tons of agents in our office do the same thing. Okay, so all of the stuff is that part there. The finance pretty self-explanatory. Final verification, basically that's the final walkthrough, making sure that what the condition the property in is what it should be. The contingencies, and this is the ones that all the reasons that somebody may want to cancel. The default, if you notice, are all 17. So it's really easy just to know on day 17, bingo, those contingencies should be gone by then. If they can be gone sooner, then so much the better. But just to let you know, that's the way it is. Now, you want to make sure you talk to the lender when you're making this offer and say, hey, in your mind, the RPA says 17 days, but the lender may be like, yeah, but we can't do it until 21 or 25 days or 20 days. Find out from the lender how much they can commit to. And if it has to be different, then put in the different amount. Now, if they can do it for less, if they're like, we know these people, we can close in 12 days. Everything's already ready to go. Yay, let's do that. Let's put that in there. It makes it for a stronger offer, but talk to the lender of the buyers. And beware, some of the big boy banks, like let's say a Wells Fargo, a Chase, any of the ones that are the big machines, they usually cannot close as quickly as some of the smaller lenders. So that's just one thing, just keep in the back of your mind when you're having these conversations. The appraisal, it's the same thing in here. Now, these are two of the things. If you notice over here, you have the removal of the contingency. You can submit it with these things removed. You have got to know that that is what your client wants to do and fully understands what the ramifications are. If there's no appraisal contingency, that means that, oh, let's say this home, you made an offer for 960 and the home appraises for 920. Well, so sad, too bad. The lender is not going to loan you more than the 920, and you have to come up with that $40,000 difference. Now, you may know the home is only worth 920, but you want it that bad and you have the means to offer 960, that's fine, but they need to know going into it that that's what's going to take place. If you take off the loan contingency and it's still on a loan, that's the sort of thing where like, oh, we didn't get our loan. Well, you committed to buy this thing, sunshine. So what are you going to do? Well, we don't have the money. Again, don't care. You decided to buy this thing, sunshine. What are you going to do? So that's one where you need to make sure if you take off the loan contingency that, and there's a loan involved, that there's a full understanding with the lender and everybody is good with it. And your buyers are good with that. This is where you want to have that conversation, because this protects them. And when they're removing a protection, I understand it makes the offer more appealing. Obviously to the seller, it makes it more appealing. But when you're removing that protection, they need to know that they are no longer protected if something goes wrong with that part. And then same thing with the investigation of the property, as far as like, that's when you have a chance to do your inspections. That's when you look over all the seller disclosures. That's when everything you can investigate about the property, that's when you can do that sort of thing. And the investigation, same thing. Oh, well, we're not going to go in and there's going to be no investigation contingency, no inspection contingency. Okay, well, when you find out that half the house is ready to fall down because the termites have had a really good lunch, that's on you. And so that's when they need to be aware of that's a kind of transaction that's taking place. Now, if you are representing a investor, many times they'll say, yeah, I want all the contingency removed, or I just want this. A lot of times they'll dictate to you exactly what they want or what they don't want. An investor is a little bit different animal, because they've been around the block and they know what they're looking for. They know what they're not looking for. They know what they're getting into. And on some of the things too, they kind of don't care because they can look at it and know, oh, I don't care if, you know, the piping is old. We're expanding anyway, and we're replacing all the piping. So that's the kind of thing where it's a little bit of a different ball game. But when you're talking about an end user, the actual buyers who are going to live in the home, then you really need to make sure if they're not aware of what these things are, what they are. And then everything else, Eric left blank in there. Any questions on any of this? Okay. And then, oh, go ahead.
Yes. I'm like, so just by highlighting the verification of payment or down payment, verification or loan application, so you just have to highlight, or you don't need to?
For me, the purpose of the highlighting is on the buyer side, it's something to discuss more in depth, and for the seller, it's something for them to like skim through, like the most important things for them to skim through. Yeah, so that's for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's brilliant. I really like it. Seriously, I think it's brilliant because of exactly what you said, Eric. I really like that. As a listing agent, I know what to look for, but I appreciate it because I know my clients may not know what to look for. Okay, items that are included or excluded. I can tell that you dove into the actual listing, so you figured out what was being offered and what was not being offered. Would I be correct in assuming that, Eric?
Yes, for the microwave, I'm not sure what type of microwave, so I just didn't include that within the excluded list or included list.
That's fine. Now in that section there for items that are included or excluded, you can have things checked or not checked on the MLS, but this is the part that's the actual contract. So you want to make sure this is in there, because what if you find out from the listing agent, well, you know what, when we originally listed the home, they were pretty sure they were going to take the refrigerator, but since then things have changed and they're leaving the fridge. Okay, then you could click that on. Well, it's not in the MLS, I know, but this is the part that's the actual contract. This is the part that calls the shots on how the transaction goes down, not the MLS. The only part of the MLS that's legal is your commission. Everything else is up to investigation and up to what takes place during the transaction. So here, allocation of costs. So you're going to be in transactions. So what's it going to, you know, how's it going to go down? The seller, normally by default, the NHD is paid by the seller. And you can select, you know, who it is, or you can make it seller's choice. If you do, now I will say on this one, Eric, because the seller is choosing it, so that means the listing agent normally chooses which one they want. And here, if they're like, oh, that's not the one I want to use, you automatically triggered a counter offer. Because now, even if it's just this one thing, they're going to counter offer you on the NHD. So on something the seller's going to purchase, I would still leave it seller's choice.
Yeah, whoops.
No, that's fine. That's why we're doing this. That's totally why we're doing this. The smoke alarms, the carbon monoxide detectors, yeah, the seller normally does that. The government inspections, blah, blah, blah. The required point of sale, yep. Escrow fees. This didn't used to be in the contract, each to pay their own fees, and we kept on writing it in. So they finally made it just a choice in the contract. Yes, each pays their own, and you want it to be the seller's choice. Same thing with the title policy. You want it to be the seller's choice. The taxes, yep, all of that is how it should go down. There is no HOA, but if it's the HOA, usually this is defaulted. The transfer fees are usually the seller. Private transfer fees are, it shows right here, usually it's a seller, sometimes a buyer, but that doesn't usually even come into play. And then the home warranty, the seller does pay for, but that is something you can specify who is the home warranty person. Because you may have somebody that you like, and technically it is going to be something your buyer is going to inherit with the house. So you may want to call that. However, again, if they want to change any of that, you've triggered a counteroffer. So you could put down, you know, if you want to like, well, I really prefer Fidelity, let's say, but you could put blah, 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 or seller's choice if you wanted to kind of get around that. So that way it gives it that little bit of leeway. Like, let's say the seller really doesn't care. Then it's like, oh, okay, bingo. Then, when it comes to escrow could be like, hey guys, which one is it going to be? Well, we really prefer fidelity. Okay. Seller doesn't care. We'll go with that. But let's say it comes back and they're like, no, we want to go with Acme crappy warranty. Then it's like, well, sorry, they're going with the crappy warranty. So that's the one you're going to get. And then the cost not to exceed. That's one where, $500 may be a little short on a home like this. So you may want to up it a little bit. You may want to find that out. Sometimes too, the transaction I just closed, we made our cost not to exceed $600 on the home. And the sellers came back and they said, we're not going to go above 500. We'll give you $500 towards a warranty, but not more. We were fine with that. We were on the buyer side. We weren't going to lose a deal over $100. However, I had contacted the warranty company and found out the warranty we really would have wanted on the home was $550. So I told my buyers, hey guys, you're going to need to pitch in, if you want the really good warranty on the home, the extra $50 while we're in escrow. And that way you can get the warranty that you really want. And that's what they did. So that's how that part worked out. And then after that, it's all the stuff that's pretty self-explanatory. All of the, some of the stuff you saw at the beginning, the wire fraud, blah, blah, blah. They're in an area where it could be wildfire. So there was a wildfire one in there. Good job. The trust advisory, yes, because there's a trust involved. The buyer investigation advisory, you can include that and some people don't. And that's kind of your own choice because, and you can see the rest of the contract is an explanation. Everything we just read through and skimmed through, this is all the explanation to that. So you do want to read through and know what this stuff means, okay? But everything is front loaded on the contract, so you can go over it just like we did right now. But as you can see also in here, there's some places like the liquidated damages. That means that they need to sign here. Liquidated damages means, oh, by default, you don't go to court. You try and work that out ahead of time. And this even is the part that specifies that the EMD shall not be more than 3% of the purchase price. You also have the arbitration. Hey, guess what? We're not going to court. You're going to have an arbitrator try and work things out beforehand, and you initial that. So that way, yeah, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory why that happens. Then you have in here, you have all the signatures going on, and then you have seller shall return in the included with any response, seller counter offer, okay, and entity sellers. Yeah, because there was we know that there was a trust, and so we need to know who is on the trust and that sort of thing. Now, wow, you put in an alternate email. I never see alternate. Literally, I've never seen alternate email on any of these contracts. But that's great. All of this is, I mean, this is all boilerplate here. I mean, all of this, I don't know if you noticed, Eric, but all this just auto-populated, right?
Yeah, it's actually really easy because if you go fill out the cover page and also the summary, usually everything is all inputted by yourself. You just need to double check. Yeah, so it was actually not that hard.
Now, yeah. Now this part here on the buyer investigation advisory doesn't need to go out to your buyers. Yes, but the only reason why sometimes I'm hesitant to include it in the RPA along with like the consumer and blah, 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 is it adds more paperwork to the PDF that the sellers are getting. And if you see here, only the buyers sign this on this one. Only the buyers sign it on this one. And I try and keep things a little bit more simple. So something that doesn't have to go to the sellers, I don't send to the sellers. I kind of hold back a little bit on some of that. And some of the disclosures, initially I do the same thing. Where I'm like, yeah, let's just hold off on that a little bit because we'll do that once we enter escrow. We're going to do that anyway. But again, I want to get my offer accepted. So if I send them over like, oh, I want to make sure everything is in there. It's like, Well, yeah, now you just gave a lot for everybody to sift through. So that's just my little thing that I happen to do. Again, I want to make things clean and simple.
Funny thing is, I was actually planning on doing that, but because my Adobe Acrobat, I didn't want to pay for subscription. I couldn't remove the pages.
Okay. In your
Yeah.
car forms, when you set it up, you know, you can designate which ones get included for
Oh, okay. I didn't
signature.
know that.
So you can say which documents get included or not included. Yeah. The time that you're not able to, that's if you originated from car forms. Let's say somebody sends you a full-blown PDF and it's got 49 pages in it, and you bring it into your car forms, and that way your people can sign it. Well, you can't break it up once it's in car forms because you've uploaded it as a PDF and as a single document. So there, yeah, you have to go through the whole thing. Whereas and that's when you can chop it up. But initially, if you're generating it from car forms, you can specify what things go out and what things don't. Now the disclosure is all at the beginning of this, you know, the first 6 pages, by default, that's in there, and that should be in there, and everybody expects that, so that's no big deal. Any questions on Eric's? Okay. The other one is Brenda. And let me switch to Brenda's. By the way, this stuff I dig. This stuff is fun for me. Okay, we should be on Brenda's. She goes, here's the mock offer. Please confirm you've received this offer. Okay, now she didn't do the whole intro thing. And again, this is, we're all learning experience and everything. But I will say, Brenda, I love that you put that in there. That's one thing I would recommend everybody do when they submit an offer, to get a confirmation one way or another. Please confirm that you've sent this offer. Now, by default, when I get offers for any of my properties, I usually just immediately email, I received it, because I don't want the buying agent bugging me. Did you get my offer? Did you get my offer? I don't know. I got 10 offers. Who are you? Let me look it up. Oh my God, this is a pain in the ass. So I'm like, immediately, let me just return. Yes, I got your offer. And it may be a great offer, but it just makes it quick and easy, and you know, people don't have to follow up. I love though that when agents send it, did you get my offer? Because did the email go to spam? Now the email could have been mistyped, and that could be your problem, or it could be their problem. Who mistyped it? I don't know. I've had people put in an email address and they mistyped their own email. And so it happens. So it's the kind of thing where if you get confirmation, yes, we received it. Thank you very much. That's all you have to do. But I love the fact that you put that in there, because it lets everybody know, hey, this is where we're at on that kind of stuff. Okay. And yeah, that's all in there. Any questions on her email? Okay, so let's go into her transaction. So I'm going to go back to Acrobat. Okay. So now here she put, you know, the regular stuff. I want you to see, she did include hers, a mock CMA, and she did the CMA from when it was originally done. Oh, wow. This is actually, I sold this home a couple of years ago. That's still their stuff on the home because they own that boat. That's funny. So anyways, here is what she did. And she put together a full CMA. And what it should be going in there. So this obviously doesn't go to the seller, but this helps your buyers know, you know, what we would be looking at. And you know what it should be. Right now it's saying 767. You know, all of that information in there, and it gives the reason for that. So good job on doing, the follow-up on that. I just got to tell you, the people who bought the home, oh my God, they were saints. They're incredible people. They have like 5 foster kids and they were just, they walked in and all of a sudden everything smelled better because they were there. They were just wonderful. Okay, so let's go into the RPA, which I know I'm saying that. And remember, this is supposed to be a business transaction. So, it's the kind of thing you may think that, but it's like, hey, it's a business transaction. So you got to look at it from that point of view. So all the stuff at the top, same thing. I noticed, you're right, Eric. She has a different number. So we'll look that up.
Oh, I think I figured out what the problem is. So I pulled it from the MLS, but when you sold it in 2018, I think the license number during that time was different. So when it inputted the result by itself, it was your old one. I believe that was the reason.
Huh, okay. Okay. So, oh, and you went off the old price. Okay, no problem. Actually with the old, CMA and everything, so it was 760, 757. So yeah, you're offering basically the value of the home. Same thing here. This all looks good. It's all broken down. Now, the way this is broken down here, and I don't know if you can respond in chat, Brenda. Oh, I based my offer off the CME. Oh yeah, we can tell. And great job on that. Now this looks like it's a 3% down loan. Is that the case on this one? Yes, perfect. Okay, then this is done exactly the way it should be, because the 3% down is also the EMD, and that's all the deposit that's going into that. If it was, again, a 5% down, 3% would be here, and then 2% would be down here. But everything else in there good. One thing I forgot to point out is where you do put in that you don't want the percentage to exceed a certain amount. Usually you look up the current rate and then you like add on an extra point or half a point. So then that way you just know like, hey, okay, it's not going to go above a certain amount. Okay, so all of this, everything's left in default. Oh, wait, there's no loan or no appraisal. Now that's interesting. It's not an all cash offer. So you're going into this without an appraisal or without a loan contingency. Are you able to elaborate why? I just want to do something different. Don't know if that works. Okay. Well, you heard me explain before. Let's say, actually, this is an excellent example. This is still going to be a loan. You can tell, guys, it's the majority of it's going to be 97% of it is going to be financed. Okay. However, what if you wanted to be a super strong offer? Well, the people who purchased this place, the Saints, she is an intensive care ER nurse. No, I take that back. She's a neurosurgeon nurse. That's what she is. Her husband is a high-end engineer for JPL Laboratories. Literally, they were pre-approved for 1.9 million in their loan. They didn't want to spend that much. They were lovely people. And they actually told me, they said, no, we don't want to live beyond our means. We want to provide a good life for our kids, but we don't need a home that's expensive either. So that's why they also wanted to move into this neighborhood. So what they did is they had that, and then they knew, okay, they really wanted this home. It's exactly what they wanted. This would be the kind of offer they would have submitted, because they may say, look, we're pre-approved for 1.9 million. Us getting the loan, we know it's a slam dunk. That's not a big deal. And by the way, we know the home is worth somewhere around the 760 that we're offering. So if it goes up and down a little bit, don't really care. We can easily make up the difference. So we're not going to do that. But they would be those kind of clients that can do that. If you have clients that are like, they don't want to spend too much, or they can just get into the home and they only have a little bit of padding there one way or another, then it's really, you know, it's a very scary playing the dice, removing these two contingencies. I kind of like that you threw it in here because I don't know anything about your buyers. What this is telling me on this is that your buyers are very confident that they can either go ahead and do this, or they're very stupid. And what I would do when it came to like Eric's offer, everything, you know, is pretty boilerplate, filled out, but still pretty boilerplate. I can see everything by his offer. This would just mean I would want a conversation with you, Brenda. I'm like, okay, let me give you a call. Now, if you supported like documentation showing that they are pre-approved for 1.9 million, and oh, by the way, they have $500,000 in the bank. Just by those two things, if that's part of your, you know, you're submitting documents to me, I would immediately know, got it. Okay, no problem. I get the fact that these things don't mean to them. So that automatically tells me that. Or if that's not in there, then that could be the kind of thing I may want to call you. Or, and again, every client is different and every situation is different. What if they can pretty much get in the place and pretty comfortable, but they have parents that have a lot of resources, and the parents have told them, look, no matter what, we want you getting into this house because you literally will be living down the street from us. That's what we want. So whatever you can do to make the offer better, we'll just make sure it happens. And that's why you may check off these boxes. Does any of that make sense? Hopefully all of it made sense.
I have a quick question. So if there's
Sure.
no loan contingency, do you have to fill out the verification of loan application for the, or specifically the additional terms part? Or is this something else?
You mean the proof, you know, that, hey, here's their pre-approval?
Or it's more like, do you know what loan? Oh, okay, never mind. It's something different. I thought the additional terms has to be filled out. But...
Yeah, but here, you know, I mean, there's the verification. I would still send it. It's always better to send it than to have the listing agent ask for it. You know, you may remove these things, but still it's like, yeah, but how much should they pre-approve for? I don't know. Yeah. So you want to know why. And in that last scenario I gave, what if the parents are saying, hey, we're going to make up the difference? You want that in writing. You would like that. In fact, the home that we just closed on for my clients this on Friday, that's exactly what took place. Their brother-in-law, well, his brother, her brother-in-law, they went ahead and said, we'll give you $30,000 towards the purchase of this home. So what we did is they actually signed a document stating that, and then they provided their proof of funds. And all of that was submitted as part of our package. So it proved that, hey, even though my clients, you know, may look like they weren't exactly squeaking by, but it looks like, oh, okay, they may be a little bit close, you know, to the offer amount. That's okay, because their relatives are going to give them this money that's going to help with the purchase of the home. That's all part of that proof. And then that, and depending on what the situation is, may depend on whether you're going to remove the loan or the appraisal. You know, you may on that situation know, hey, the home is worth about 760, so we'll remove the appraisal. We're just not going to remove the loan. That would make sense as well. You got to, you know, figure out each one as you want to do it. Any questions on this one here so far?
Hey, Mark, what does that mean when a seller said they'll give you $30,000 or whatever the amount is towards the purchase? How does that work?
Not the seller. No, they had family that was going to do it, not the seller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Misheard
Their
that.
family was giving them that money. But a good question, because in that scenario, sometimes the family will say, well, let me transfer it into your accounts. You don't want to do that. Anything over $10,000 will get flagged by a bank, and they need to investigate where the money came from. What happened is that we opened escrow, and then those relatives transferred the money directly into the escrow accounts. So then there is no question where it came from, and there has to be no investigation for that as well.
So then how would the family give them the money if they can't transfer it to the bank account?
They'll get information from the escrow company on how to wire the information or wire the funds into the account.
Okay.
Okay. And then everything else pretty default in here. She's not including the dishwasher. So I guess there's no dishwasher. That would be one. And then if there was anything else, I know it seems funny about bathroom mirrors. That's a recent thing, but literally some people have taken the bathroom mirrors and then it's been an issue. So that's the reason why that one's checked off in there. If anything is in question in here, sometimes it's always good just to have a conversation with the agent, even send an email. Hey, you know, I noticed on the photos that it looked like there's a built-in wine refrigerator in the kitchen. And I just want to know whether we should be clicking that or not. I recently sold a home that they had a built-in wine fridge that she really wanted to take it with them. And I had to convince her, listen, you're selling your home and you're selling this home we sold it for $870,000. And they were buying a home pretty much outright for $330,000 up in Northern California area. So I said, you're going to have the money where you don't have to move this thing. You literally can buy one of your choice up there. And she was like, yeah, okay, I guess you're right. But that was one that initially, if I hadn't had that conversation, you know, wine refrigerator would not have been included with the listing agreement. It was on the MLS. And so the offer we got, they checked that box. Here's where you'd want to make sure it's filled out probably a little bit more. The NHD, you could put, just by putting, you know, seller is fine, you know, maybe seller's choice here. Seller's fine. NHD is not a big deal. I mean, literally it costs you 75 to $100 to do an NHD. So nobody's going to really get that bothered over it. And the seller smoking alarm. Okay, good. Government required, that you'd want checked off by the seller right there. Escrow fees, each to pay their own, seller's choice, exactly what it should be. For the title, seller box should be checked and it should be seller's choice here. Okay. County transfer fees. Yep. That's all good. There was no HOA on this property, so don't even have to worry about that. All of that's fine. Seller to pay the warranty, not to exceed $600 on this kind of home. Yeah, 600 would be probably the minimal you'd want to go. And who it's issued by, leaving it blank is fine because it kind of leaves it up to like whoever wants to choose. And by the way, you can always leverage something like this. Let's say you left it blank and you did it by accident. Leverage, and this is one where I would leverage it. Oh, I know I left it blank, but that would be something we can just work out together. Of course, I would defer if you had a preference. I know my buyers have a preference, but anything we can do to just make sure this deal goes through. A listing agent would love to hear that. Oh, okay, no problem. Just you're affirming that we're going to work with you. You know, we're going to make this an easy transaction for you. So that's how you would do. Now, a little bit about warranties, just a little blurb on that. Listen, you can have a basic home warranty, but then there's added packages. They base the warranty on, usually they'll want the address, they'll want to know the square footage of the home, and then some of the key questions. Is it central AC or not? Bingo, that makes it different. Do you want the roof fully covered or not? That makes a difference. Does it have a spa? Does it have a jacuzzi? Those make a difference. And then if you bump up to the upgrades, there could be automatic maintenance on some of these things. You know, you can have things once a week, automatic, or once a year, automatically checked, like the HVAC system. You can have other things automatically checked. There could be deductibles. There could be other things included. So that's where you want to go ahead and maybe just go ahead and reach out to the warranty people and say, hey, what do you think is a good amount? And I can tell you, Mary Mendoza, who I tend to use the most, she's not going to oversell it. She's not going to say, oh yeah, get them that top warranty. It's only $1,200. She usually knows, yeah, people aren't going to really exceed something. Sometimes on a home like this, you may say, Rob, you really want to put in there maybe $650 to get them the kind of warranty that'll cover everything. And then they feel really comfortable with it. Okay, fine. Not a problem. You know, that's the sort of thing. And there's some things too, like in some of these homes, they actually had dual HVAC units. They had an upper unit and a lower unit. So sometimes you have a dual zone, and dual zone means there's one HVAC unit, but there's two different thermostats, one for upstairs and one for downstairs, or one from one side of the home and one for another side. And then the same unit controls both. And that can be taxing on that one unit. When you have dual zones, you have dual units, then they're completely separate units, and one handles just upstairs, one handles just downstairs, or one handles just the east wing, one handles just the west wing. And then that will come into play. But most of the time, on these warranties, they just ask if there's an HVAC system, and that's all you need to know. If there's a guest house or a pool house, then they'll want to know information on that too as well. The home I sold last year, that was 6,500 square feet, and it had a pool house that had a full-blown HVAC system, and it was really a guest house. And that whole system, or that whole warranty, I think we did the warranty for, I think it was $900, and it was one of their top warranties, but it was just all the added extra little things on there is what bumped it up in price. Okay, so we've gone through Brenda's. Any question on Brenda's? Okay. And okay, I've got this one is from Gabe. Gabe couldn't be on here today. He had an appointment, but he sent this over. And our goal is to, this is, you can tell this initial part here, this hello Rob would be what was in the email. So then this would go ahead and be what's in there. Our goal would be to create a smooth work experience for the sellers and buyers alike. We are very easy to work with. We're very, sorry about that. We're very easy to work with. Please include us in the event you send out counter offers. I like that he put that in there. Hey, make sure that we're always in the game no matter what. Mr. and Mrs. Sample are motivated. They're flexible and would be happy to adjust terms in our written offer. We don't have any time restrictions on the buyer side, and the buyer will not have to have a close the property. They don't have to sell another property to get it. The buyer, they're currently in a rental home. The buyers have the ability to do a fast 21-day escrow to give the sellers a long escrow if preferred. Buyers have solid financing. I like that he puts that in there with Johnny Cash. We'd be happy to perform a cross qualification. Sometimes listing agents want to know that because they may be like, well, I don't know who your lender is, but I trust my built-in lender, and we just want to make sure they cross qualify. So I do like that he put that in there. Actually, that's something I may even add to some of my email. In the event the sellers would like to do so, please feel free to reach out. I really like he put this in there, and he had fun with this, Johnny Cash and his assistant De Niro. But I really like that he put all this kind of stuff in there, and that it makes it easy for the listing agent to go ahead and like, hey, who do I need to contact? What do I need to do? Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns, blah, blah, blah. Here's the terms. Very much similar to what Eric put in there, close of escrow. Buyer currently do not have to sell their current home. EMD can increase if preferred. That's kind of nice putting it in there. You know, and again, if the EMD is going to be, if it's going to be any more than 3%, well, they can't keep more than 3% for liquidated damages anyway. Stating no termite or no home warranty. Wow, that makes it kind of attractive. Now, the no termite, you have to have a long conversation, you know, with your buyers, understanding that, hey, if there's termite damage, it's on you. So you have to know the condition of the property. I can tell you that this particular property, the termite damage was around, believe it or not, because they kept really good condition on the property, was maybe around $300, $400 on it. And then the other repairs in the property were around $1,200. So yeah, the property was just in great shape. no home warranty, that's fine. I've seen a lot of offers sometimes say a home warranty. I just told you how much home warranties run. And so a lot of times a buyer, an agent will explain, listen, I know we're going to be in heavy competition with this sort of thing. So let me do you a favor. We can make more ours just a little bit. It's not going to be a lot, but if we pay the warranty ourselves, and it'll probably be around $600, that may make your offer a lot more attractive. Or at least give them the inkling that we're willing to work with you. So that could be one of the things that could help on that. He shortened the inspection times. So he shortened it to all inspections to be performed, 10 days for the actual removal of that. The appraisal, he made it short, make sure that you're able to do that kind of stuff. Mafia Bank and Loans, Hell's Kitchen. Okay, this is really good. This is fun. So he put in all the proof of funds here. The people have got a huge savings and okay checking. Now, the one thing I'll point out in here, and I know this is all for fun, I always redact the numbers. A listing agent, now not all of them notice this, I do. If somebody sends me an offer and they haven't redacted the numbers, I'm like, dude, you just gave me all the information on how to, access their account. Now, obviously not passwords and so on, but redact the numbers. And especially since this is being sent via email, which is inherently insecure, you don't want social security numbers and you don't want account numbers in any of the information you're sending over. And some people have said, like, I don't understand, I'm a computer geek, so I know how to go in electronically and redact them. But I've had some people say, I don't know how to do it. Then print it out, literally black it out, and then scan it or take a photo, a good looking one, not one that like they can't make out what it is. And then that's what you send over. You want to redact the account numbers. Here's a pre-approval. It shows everything in here to whom it concerns, what their pre-approval is for, blah, blah, blah. This is all boilerplate. This is a lot of what that kind of stuff looks like. And that's about it on that. Any questions on his pre-approval documentation? Okay, next, let's go into the RPA and tell me, what page am I going to go to? Somebody, which one?
7.
Yep, exactly. You guys know this now. There we go. It's a Christmas miracle. Okay, so we're on page 7. Again, the front part, all of this, we've gone over that. They're putting in 980. Just like I said, do you want a shorter day, and they're doing 21 days. Automatically makes it a little bit more attractive if you can shorten the escrow, but you got to make sure that how you're shortening it, you're able to do that. Just by putting it in there doesn't mean like, oh yeah, we're going to do a 15-day escrow. Well, if your lender is saying, no, it's going to have to be at least a 30-day escrow, now you're running the risk of actually this may cancel. So, you need to make sure that, or what if you're frustrating the sellers and now you're asking for repairs? Oh, you just frustrated the sellers and now you're asking for repairs. Good luck, Buttercup. I don't know if you're going to get them. So you want to make sure that any of the timelines you're putting in there actually can happen. He actually put in there 3 calendar days, or he put in the actual date. Usually on some things, you kind of don't want to always put in the date, but here, this one's pretty good because by having the actual date, you can make it longer. So let's say, sorry guys. Let's say you can go ahead and you can, you want yours to, like your offer is going to expire, or you want to make it like, hey, this Saturday, no matter when you got this offer, this Saturday is when it's expiring. That's when you can do that sort of thing. The deposit is 5% of the purchase price. Okay. Now, something that got missed here is look at the balance of the down payment.
All
Yeah.
cash.
So that means it's going to be an all cash deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't click all cash. Well, I know somehow all of this cash is coming in. And unless it's not explained in there, yeah. What I'm assuming on this, because we had a pre-approval, on it of a loan, what I'm assuming is that this part should have been filled in here with the other part, the 95%. I would have to assume, I don't know if they want to put down more money or not, but at least the 95% goes in here to make up the difference, to make the full 980,000. So that's one that was missed right there. So, and that's why we're doing this, guys. This is a learning experience. If you're doing it and you have a purchase price here and you're like, I put in my deposit, but I guess this is how much they're going to have to pay or whatever. No, something's missing. If there's a loan involved, that means the loan amount should be filled out. Any questions on that one? Okay.
I have a separate question, but for the listing agent, would you prefer the initial deposit amount to be 3% with, let's just say, the 2% as a down payment, or all 5% on the initial deposit amount?
Okay, this being all on the initial deposit, that does make it for a little bit of a stronger offer, but an experienced agent is kind of like, well, okay, that just makes it a stronger offer. Really, what's your proof of funds? That's what makes it even stronger. What if they only have 60,000 in the bank and you're like, well, okay, you're putting a lot down in the deposit, but you have a total of 60,000, as opposed to somebody who put down 3%, but they have $500,000 in the bank. Well, you just did, your proof of funds are a lot stronger. So it kind of shows the difference.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of times your loan will dictate how much is going to get deposited. Is it going to be 10%? Is it going to be 5%? What is it going to be? And then let's say the loan says it's going to be 10%. Well, then, okay, then that's how much you put in the 3% here, because that's usually what everybody does. And then the balance of that, and out of 10%, if that's 3, this would be 7%, then that balance would go here of the deposit. And then that's expected towards the close of escrow when they're getting ready to close. That's when you cough up the rest of the money. Where your initial EMD, when you first open escrow, that's usually done within 3 days. See, within 3 days right there. That's done within 3 days. That's the initial EMD, the 3%. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Then everything else. Now, this is where he shortened it to make it more attractive. The appraisal, okay, that's fine. If, like I mentioned before, if you know the home is going to appraise for what you want it to be, or your buyers are like, I don't care what it appraises for. I know what it's worth, at least to me. I'm going to pay for it. Okay, fine. Just understand there may be a difference there. That's what you want to invest, let them know. 7-day investigation. I've done it, but it is a whirlwind. And I only did it because basically the listing agent told me, Rob, we want to close in literally 8 days. We want a 7-day investigation. So we agreed to it because my buyers were really wanting the home. But I literally, as soon as I knew our offer had a smell that we were going to get accepted, basically, as soon as we started doing counter offers, I contacted the companies and I said, hey, I need a tentative scheduled appointment for blah, blah, blah. I need a tentative for this. I need a tentative that. What's the earliest you can get me? Fortunately, I was able to schedule them all within the same day. And we did all our inspections in 1 day. I literally evaluated them. I got all of the reports that night. The next day, my buyers did a request for repairs. And that Friday, we submitted them. The sellers came back and said within that same day what they wanted to do at the very end of the day. And that following Monday, we closed. It was like boom, 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 boom. So you have to be prepared to do that. It's not just, hey, I'm going to shorten everything. Any questions on this, on how he structured this? Okay. Okay, next up. This time, stove, refrigerator. I really don't remember on the listing agreement. I think we did leave the fridge. So I can't remember. So, that's when you want to make sure things are checked off. You don't check off things because you want them. Let's say if it's better to have the conversation with the listing agent, especially in a seller's market like we're in. What does a seller want to leave behind? What do they not want to leave behind? And whatever it is, that sounds good to us. You kind of go with the flow on that. And sometimes on your higher end homes, you see, well, I take that back. Sometimes you see less of that. People are like, no, I'm going to buy all new where I'm going, unless they have like, let's say I had a client recently, about 2 years ago, I should say. They bought basically an Italian equivalent to a Viking stove. And that was not staying. She goes, that is going with me to the grave. So that's when it's like, nope, that's not getting listed. And we specified right in the listing, like, hey, nope, that is something that's not being included. So here, same thing with the NHD, not specified, not a big deal because it's not that expensive. So nobody really cares. But you can specify it. Again, I think it's always best to maybe put in this one here, seller's choice. Smoke alarm seller, yes. Government, yes. Escrow fees, both. I would say no, because here it's like both. Well, what does that mean? Well, the only thing you can guess from this, because it's not even, there's no explanation there, is you're going to split it down the middle. And that's not what you want to happen, because a buyer's escrow fees are different from a seller's escrow fees. And if one is more than the other, the one who paid more than what they should have paid is going to get pissed off. So, and then they're going to wonder, why was it structured that way? Unless you're on the other side, then it's like, haha, we got away with less. So it's best to put each to pay their own fees. Then it feels like you're not paying more or you're paying less than what you should be paying. And even when you put that in there, each to pay their own fees, then nobody's going to ask, well, wait, how much do they pay? How much did I pay? No, you paid only what you owed. That's all you paid. So on this, I would say, I would have that as your default, unless you have a reason to click both. But if you don't have a reason, I wouldn't do it that way. Title policy. It's almost always paid by the seller. It's not paid by both. It's almost always paid by the seller. The only time I've seen, the reality is, the only time I've seen where the buyer pays for it is if it's an investor and they have a particular title company they want to work with. And so they do that. Or if, let's say, the buying agent, they know they're making an unbelievable offer for this home. Let's say the home is worth $960,000 and they're offering 1.25, and we know they're one of the top offers out there. And they're saying, but one of the things, I really want to use our title company. Okay, you know what? That's fine. That's something, we get. But usually the default is always the seller chooses. Here, the taxes, that's all fine. HOA transfer, there was no HOA on this one. So usually it would be the seller, but in this one, there isn't an HOA. Checking it off doesn't mean anything, although it would trigger me as a listing agent. How much did they pay attention to my listing? How good are they on details? If you're the only offer, you're going to overlook it. But if you've got 10 offers out there, that may be something like, oh, how good is this person going to be once we're in transaction? The cost, the home warranty, usually, again, it's a seller who pays for the home warranty, not both. Usually, like I said before, you can put in there if you prefer one or seller's choice. 500 is a little low for this home. You would probably want it to be at least 600 for this home, if not maybe 650 or something. The advisories, and then once we get into this, all of that advisory stuff is pretty much the same. Any questions on Gabe's transaction? And again, this is a learning experience. So if you notice on each one of these, there were some things I liked and some things I didn't like, because we're all learning and growing together. Any questions?
I have a question. So in this scenario, does it make a difference if we put a trust or not, if the seller has one?
If you're aware of it, then great. But if you're not aware of it, then that's going to come out in escrow anyway, because escrow is going to know that, hey, the home is in a trust. And then that's when they fill out the trust documentation.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, good question.
I got the question.
Yeah.
As a listing agent, after receiving all these three offers, which one do you think can be the strongest offer?
I'm not going to go on price because, they based it on price for different reasons. I would actually say Eric's would be the stronger one. Both his intro email I like better, and then his paperwork was pretty solid. So I would say between the three of them, if I were presenting this to, really good question. If I was presenting this to my sellers, I would say, you know, it really seems like this one is the cleanest and the neatest. And I think we're going to have a better chance of it being smooth with this transaction.
Is it always best to send all those pre-approval all together, or wait until send it at the later stage?
No, try and send everything in one email. You don't want the listing agent to search for information.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Okay, we went a little bit longer than what I intended. I don't care, because this was fun and this was a great learning experience.
Thank you so much.
This is
Next
incredibly
workshop.
helpful.
I'm sorry?
This is incredibly helpful.
Yes,
Good.
agree. Very, very. Thank you.
Good, I'm really glad. We're gonna actually take that same property the next time we do something, and it's gonna be, I'm gonna make you the selling agent, and then all the things you're gonna do to help with that. And then we're gonna get into a transaction. So actually go into it and go from a few things from there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being so patient with this. And I had a great time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you.